He was sentenced to die for the crime twice, but those sentences were overturned, and now a convicted cop killer is a free man today.
And as CBS 2's Mike Puccinelli reports, family members of the man he killed are not happy about it.
Oh, I remember the day I was yesterday.
Tim Yaros is talking about the day he lost his dad more than 35 years ago.
I will never forget that day.
August 11, 1981, the day Lieutenant George Yaros was shot dead while responding to a Gary bank robbery. Now the man who killed him, Zolo Azania, is free.
I just say he's a coward.
Azania was known as Rufus Averhart when prosecutors say he stood over the wounded officer and put a bullet in his chest. Azania says he wasn't the trigger man.
There's just no doubt in my mind that he is the person who committed this crime.
Azania admitted killing another man 9 years earlier in a botched robbery, but got out only to kill again. Now Yaros isn't sure if violence is behind the ex-con.
Now he's getting a third chance, so I don't think he deserves any chance whatsoever.
But Yaros' kids and their kids never had a chance to meet his dad.
I think that hurts more than anything. My sons, my daughter, my grandkids never got to see him.
But he remembers his dad's final words referencing his then pregnant wife. To Yaros, they were the typically unselfish sentiments he'd come to expect from his dad.
He says, you take care of your family, you take care of Levon, and you take care of the little baby inside. That's the last thing he ever said to me.
The last words of a father who'd survived World War II and imprisonment by the Nazis, only to die on the streets of Gary. But not before he stood up in his son's wedding as best man.
He was my best friend. I can't say any clearer than that.
Now, Yaros and his wife told our Dana Kozlov they plan to go to the cemetery today to pray at his father's gravesite. Azania was freed earlier this morning. He has set up a GoFundMe page to help pay for his life outside the prison's walls.
An awful story here. The teenager who was shot and then killed, then burned, dreamed of serving in the National Guard.
Yeah, the suspect in this case has had run-ins with law enforcement in the past. WGN's Jewel Hillary is in Harvey with more details.
Before Isaiah Davis was murdered in October, he had aspirations of joining the National Guard and then going on to becoming an electrician or an attorney. Now authorities say the 34-year-old man who allegedly took Davis's life was the suspect in a previous triple homicide, but was never convicted. Leslie Bell, the mom of 17-year-old Isaiah Davis, says she always encouraged her son to one day become an attorney.
I always told him to be a lawyer because he always had something to say. Like, he never ended his conversations at all.
The close bond between Leslie and Isaiah, her youngest child, was cut short on October 28, 2021. Sources tell WGN the Thornton Township High School senior was shot at this home on Hoxie Avenue in Burnham. Then the teen's body was dumped and set on fire in this alley at 149th and Washtenaw in Harvey.
Now, I don't have my son to call anymore, so now my life is like lost without him.
On December 31st, 2021, 34-year-old Fatim Norwood, who was on parole, was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder in connection to Isaiah's homicide. Norwood, now sitting in Cook County Jail, has a history of serious offenses on his record.
As detectives learned that Norwood was currently on parole for a charge relating to the robbery and murders of a 28-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 10-year-old, and attempted murder of a 4-year-old.
You have detectives and police officers out here in Harvey that have worked that case and worked that case solid. They put that case together. And to me, it was just a slap in the face that that case, didn't go through.
When Leslie learned about her son's death, she traced the steps leading to his murder. After meeting Norwood face to face, she led police to him.
I was able to meet with him and look him in his eye, and I knew that it was him who hurt my son.
The grieving mom tells us Isaiah and Norwood were not friends, and she believes her son, who was handy at home, would be alive today had Norwood been locked up on previous charges.
So every time I turn and something is broke, I think, oh, I can't call Isaiah. What am I gonna do?
Family and friends of Tamira Washington were left shattered as they returned tonight to where she and her boyfriend were killed. Police arrested her ex-boyfriend, a convicted murderer who was out on bond in another case at the time of the killings.
I'm devastated. My heart is broken.
Under the tears and heartache is anger.
He will not get away with murder again for the second time.
As Tamira Washington's loved ones gather outside of her South Chicago home on Luella near 83rd, family members returning to the scene where Washington and her boyfriend were murdered just days ago.
She was a resilient young lady, full of life, happy, loved to sing. Oh my God.
her voice now forever silenced. Prosecutors say early Sunday morning, Stephen Hawthorne entered Washington's home with a key and went upstairs and shot and killed her boyfriend, Norman Redden, while he was in bed. Court documents say other relatives, including Washington's 2 young daughters, hid in the house while Hawthorne chased Washington down outside, allegedly beating her to death with a large rock. He was soon arrested after a short chase.
I got a little piece, just a little bit.
At the time of the murders, Hawthorne was out on bond in a pending unlawful use of a weapon by a felon case that stemmed from a traffic stop in January. Back in 1983, Hawthorne was convicted of murder when he was a teenager. State prison officials say he was released in 2017.
And them people let him out to kill my niece. I want justice.
As Hawthorne is now back in custody, Washington's family receiving a sign of hope from above.
This rainbow is telling me that her death won't be in vain, that he won't get away with this.
We reached out to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, but we're told they do not comment on pending litigation. Prosecutors say Hawthorne was wearing a GPS monitoring bracelet which showed him near Washington's home at the time of the murders.